Tonight, the Met boss admits there are more corrupt officers yet to be exposed. Sir Mark Rowley was grilled over his force's failure to root out criminals in uniforms and how another dangerous officer slipped through the net.
We must improve dramatically for London. We have to prepare for more painful stories as we confront the issues that we face.
Also on the programme, Matt Hancock is harassed on the Underground.
This is Matt Hancock, the murderer. Matt Hancock, my dazzling murderer.
A man has been arrested on suspicion of assaulting the former health secretary on a tube train. Nervous wrecks in their own home, the mother and her child who've had 3 cars crash into their house. And striking gold, the mystery donation that's left a charity shop £10,000 better off. Good evening. We must improve dramatically for Londoners. That's the message tonight from the Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police as he faced a grilling at City Hall over how the force has been handling the cases of corrupt criminal officers. Sir Mark Rowley did offer 2 apologies to the victims of serial rapist David Carrick and to those who suffered at the hands of a Safer Schools constable in Enfield, whose crimes have only just been highlighted after he pleaded guilty to sexual offences involving children. But as more bad apples in uniform are identified, Sir Mark did have a stark warning that we are only going to be hearing more painful truths as stones are turned over. With the latest, here's our political correspondent Simon Harris.
Police Constable Hussein Chihab was supposed to protect school children. Instead, he was a paedophile in uniform and allowed to work in a school at Enfield in North London.
Young people in Enfield have a right to go to school with the knowledge that they will be kept safe. And what is absolutely sickening is that PC Chihab committed some of these crimes whilst he was a Safer School officer in our borough.
This latest scandal involving a Met police officer emerged during a court case where PC Chihab pleaded guilty. Wood Green Crown Court was told that Chihab had been involved in a relationship with a 15-year-old girl before he joined the Met. He then committed further offences after being assigned to work in a local secondary school as a Safer Schools officer. The 22-year-old admitted a string of child sex offences, including 4 counts of sexual activity with a girl aged 13 to 15, 3 counts of making indecent photographs of a child, and 1 count of engaging in sexual communication with a child.
Whilst he was in the police, he was taking part in what you might sort of broadly describe as grooming activity. It is ghastly, and it's going to be really, obviously, you've got to apologise to the victims. They shouldn't be facing that at the hands of a police officer.
Chihab joined the Met in March 2020 at the start of the pandemic. One former senior officer told ITV News online vetting instead of face-to-face interviews might have been a factor.
Any questions that he would have been asked, i.e. any affiliations to neo-Nazi groups, anything to do with extreme pornography, children, anything like that, he would have ticked the box and said no, and it would not have been subject to scrutiny. The vetting process, once again, has failed this family.
Last week, David Carrick, an armed protection officer, was unmasked as a serial rapist. Today, the Met Commissioner revealed police officers are appearing in court on serious charges at the rate of 2 or 3 a week.
Most weeks there's 2 or 3 officers going to court for criminal cases, which tends to be a mix of sort of dishonesty, violence and sort of violence against women and girls type offences, domestic abuse, sexual offences, etc. We have to prepare for more painful stories as we confront the issues that we face.
PC Hussein Chihab is still a serving police officer, but will be put through a fast-track misconduct process, which is expected to see him being sacked. He'll be sentenced at the Crown Court in March.
Simon, this is the first time we've heard from the Commissioner since he announced his 9-point plan to reform the Met last week. He's got a lot on his hands, hasn't he?
Yes, and Sir Mark said today that one of the measures he's brought in, a telephone hotline for members of the public to ring in and report dishonest, corrupt or dangerous police officers, is likely to lead to even more cases. And that admission today that there are already 2 or 3 cases a week going before the courts was quite an eye-opener. Smart concedes that the Met just simply hasn't been strong enough investigating its own. They haven't applied the same ruthlessness, as he put it, to their own integrity as they apply to the criminals.
And what have Enfield Council had to say about this?
Well, we heard earlier from the Conservative opposition leader on Enfield Council. Tonight, the Labour leader has issued a statement emphasising that all of the offences committed by PC Shihab were outside the borough of Enfield. She also said there's no evidence or suggestion that any of the children, the victims, were pupils at the Enfield school where PC Shihab worked.
OK, Simon, thank you very much. Next tonight to some breaking news, and a 61-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of assaulting the former Health Secretary Matt Hancock. The incident is alleged to have happened on board a tube train from Westminster. Our reporter Joe Koshan is there for us now. Joe, what more can you tell us?
Yes, thanks, Duncan. Matt Hancock is understood to have been unhurt in the incident, which began at Westminster Tube Station before continuing onto the tube train itself during Tuesday morning's rush hour. British Transport Police have confirmed the incident. They told us that a 61-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of common assault and a public order offence and remains in custody, and inquiries are ongoing. But in the last hour, a video has surfaced online appearing to show the former Health Secretary being harassed. Here's a short snippet of that clip.
This is Matt Hancock, the murderer. Matt Hancock, my dazzling murderer. Matt Hancock, that's happy to go on to celebrity. I'm a celebrity. Get me out of here. Well, you're a celebrity. Get you in prison. Get you in prison. Harassing? Have you said harassed? Great. How about 64 million people that you harassed when you're locking us down on your COVID fraud? Sat down in ass and calm. Just shut your mouth for a second and let him answer his questions. That's all I'm doing.
I don't think this aggression is appropriate.
Hey?
I don't think this aggression is appropriate.
Oh, it's aggression, is it?
It is, towards the London Underground.
Oh, the London Underground. So you'll try everything, won't you?
Well, dramatic scenes involving the former Health Secretary there in front of commuters. A spokesman for Mr Hancock said it was an unpleasant encounter. He said that this sort of behaviour is a rare occurrence and stressed the importance of shutting down baseless misinformation which causes so much harm.
Joe Koshan in Westminster, thank you. To other news now, and a drunk driver who was jailed for crashing into a pedicab and killing a passenger has had his prison sentence increased. Louis Balcazar Soto didn't have a licence and was over twice the drink drive limit when he smashed into the pedicab at Elephant and Castle last year. He was sentenced to 9 years in prison. Today that was up to 12 years after it was challenged by the Solicitor General at the Court of Appeal. Hackney Council has signed off plans to ban most vehicles from 75% of its roads in a bid to tackle toxic air. It's part of a scheme to expand controversial low-traffic neighbourhood measures. It will mean bollards, planters and cameras will be put up to stop cars using small residential streets. And Britain's busiest lifeboat station has floated away from its home near Tower Bridge. The RNLI's ageing base on Victoria Embankment is no longer fit for purpose, so was towed away beneath one of the capital's most iconic landmarks. The station was a vital part of the capital's lifeboat operation for 16 years, with parts of the pontoon dating back to the Victorian era. Next, a mother from Waltham Abbey has told ITV News London that she and her 9-year-old daughter are living in fear of being killed or seriously injured in their own home after at least 3 cars crashed into their property. On one occasion, Laura Lynes said they had not long been in bed when a vehicle came crashing through their living room wall. Now she's trying to get the council to put a speed camera outside. Carolyn Sim reports.
It was out of control and going too fast. When this car smashed into this house in Essex 3 months ago, it destroyed a family's home and left their nerves in pieces.
I'm constantly on edge. The minute that I hear anything go past really fast, it just takes me straight back to that night where I heard it and then felt the impact and then come down. It was like something out of a film.
Something told us to go to bed early that night. My daughter was laying on that settee, our daughter was laying on that settee, and she would have died. And it's not acceptable, and it can't carry on no more.
Even while the wall was being rebuilt, a van crashed into the barriers out on the road. The couple and their 2 daughters had barely begun to get over their shock when this happened last week. Another car crashed into the fence this time, just missing the dog.
This is our home. This is our safe place. 100%. We've got animals here. We've got our family here. We don't want to feel like this no more.
No. Cars literally fly down this road at least 80 miles an hour, and there is nothing monitoring them.
We need speed cameras both ways. We need possibly a roundabout. We need a lighting system. Anything to slow this traffic down.
In the 10 years they've lived here, the couple claim there have been more than 100 crashes on this road.
It's quite plain to see that a lot of accidents happen here. The grass is covered in car parts that have been left behind. You're supposed to drive at 50 miles an hour along this stretch, but if you join from that junction, you couldn't tell because the speed sign has been crashed into.
Essex Highways told us the couple should contact their local councillor, who can refer the case to the local highway panel. Laura says she's tried that.
One come back to me with a load of pie charts and graphs to say about budgeting and priorities. How this road can't be a priority, I'll never know. Like, this is a priority. There's fatalities, there's accidents, at least weekly, if not fortnightly. How can the council allow that to carry on?
Nearly 2,000 people have now signed a petition urging Essex Highways to hurry up and make the road safe, while this family continue to live in fear that one of them could get killed next time. Carolyn Sim, ITV News, Nazing in Essex.
Still to come, we'll have the weather forecast, plus... The show that was performed under a railway bridge makes it to the West End. And how did an expensive Cartier watch end up at a charity shop in Hounslow? But first, an Olympic gold medalist has been cleared of tampering with an oil tanker during Extinction Rebellion protests in West London. Etienne Stott joined activists in Bayswater last April, where he was accused of gluing himself to the top of a tanker's cab, blocking traffic for nearly 4 hours. From Westminster Magistrates Court, Rags Martel reports.
Yeah! From Olympic champion to courtroom winner. Etienne Stott cleared with other climate protesters for a demonstration on top of an oil tanker.
There's been found to be no case to answer against us based on a legal point, but the point that really stands is our government is still expanding, allowing the fossil fuel companies to expand their operations, and that is against the guidance of the United Nations, against the guidance of the International Energy Agency, and that was the whole point of our action that day, was to call attention to our government's contradictory response to this climate emergency.
These companies are absolutely raking in on the backs of ordinary people. This is a price panic.
This was the moment Extinction Rebellion activists stopped a petrol truck in central London last April.
Hello Etienne, my name's Fraser, I'm a police officer from Walworth Police Station.
This police camera footage was shown in court. Officers arresting the former 2012 gold medalist on top of the tanker. At the start of his trial this morning, the Olympic canoeist from Nottingham represented himself in court.
Etienne Stott opened with an apology to the first witness, the driver of the Shell tanker. He said, "I have no axe to grind with you at all," then going on to explain the protest was against the oil industry and not its individual workers.
But this afternoon, the entire trial was thrown out of court. The case rested on the charge of tampering with a vehicle. But as the protesters were on the trailer, the judge ruled this charge did not apply to them.
While the trial was ongoing, there were some dangers pointed out that, it was a tanker full of very dangerous fumes. Do you regret at all what you did? No, absolutely not. This is so vital. Our government is literally allowing these fossil fuel companies to destroy everything. Everything, all our futures depend on us rapidly ending the fossil fuel era. And our government is showing no signs of doing that.
In 2012, he won gold for Team GB, but Stott has always been open about his environmental activism.
Would you do it again? I wouldn't want to say that right now, but I will always say that I will do whatever I believe is most effective to try to safeguard our future on this planet. And I think I will, make those decisions as I go.
This was another win for this Olympian, but his environmental fight isn't over. Rags Martel, ITV News, at Westminster Magistrates Court.
The ITV News continues at 6:30. Here's a look ahead now with Lucrezia.
Coming up, dozens of NATO tanks destined for Ukraine. Germany today gave the go-ahead to supply its Leopard 2s to Kyiv. We'll have reaction and ask if this could be a turning point in the war. Also ahead, jailed for life, the asylum seeker who murdered an aspiring Royal Marine. And
nice and tidy, all in a day's work.
we meet the Thatcher whose online following is through the roof. Join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
A new law will be passed to allow a Holocaust Memorial Centre to be built next to Parliament. The site is controversial because it's a Grade 2 listed park. Campaigners successfully challenged planning permission at the High Court, but now the Prime Minister has intervened.
I'm sure the whole House will join me in paying tribute to the extraordinary courage of Britain's Holocaust survivors, including 94-year-old Arik Hirsch, who is with us here today. This government will legislate to build the Holocaust Memorial and Learning Centre next to Parliament, so the testimonies of survivors like Arik will be heard at the heart of our democracy by every generation to come.
Next, she thought she was an unlikely candidate to be recognised with her own statue, but back in 1986, Joy Batic was selected as one of 3 people to be immortalised at Brixton Station because they were true examples of the real people who lived and worked in the area. After the pieces weathered, they were removed for restoration, but they're now back on platforms 1, 2 and 3, as Daniel Henry reports.
2, 1, yeah!
This statue is full of joy. She was selected by a sculptor as a model for this piece in 1986. Now Joy has another permanent place on the platform, and she couldn't be prouder.
See my old self, and I think, look, there I am up there, and now I can see myself, today's self. Oh, I'm still there, and that's amazing.
Joy's statue is part of a series that you can see from Brixton train station. They were taken away for a while, but they've been restored and returned to their rightful places. The sculptor wanted to show off the community in South London, so he picked locals to pose for him. But he told me there was something special about Joy that stood out.
Joy was such a bubbly personality. I mean, all of the models were great, but Joy was the one who kind of, you know, as you can tell, she just put a personality into it. I'd like to think it's become a part of the culture of Brixton, and that's for sure it's Joy. But joy is a stand-in. In many ways, joy is in every woman. Joy is kind of symbolic of the people of Brixton.
Kevin has kept in touch with Joy and Karen, who modelled this sculpture. But what about Peter?
There was an unveiling 37 years ago, and that was the last time I saw Peter. And it would have been great for him to be here, but in some ways, it adds to the mystery of, will the real Peter Lloyd please stand up?
Lots has changed in Brixton since these bronzed artworks first arrived. So what would Joy tell the young woman on the other side of the platform?
The future's good for you if you want it. I think there's a lot of scope. I think there's a lot of growth for people of colour in this area, without a doubt. But you've got to want it, because it's there. The opportunity's there. We're not going anywhere. I'm on the platform to show you that I haven't gone anywhere. I live out of Brixton, but I'm here. Amen.
Amen. Daniel Henry, ITV News.
Sport, and Bournemouth's run in the FA Cup has come to an end after a 1-0 loss to Accrington Stanley last night. Both sides could not be separated after full-time, but a penalty by midfielder Tommy Lee in the 97th minute of additional extra time was enough for John Coleman's men to secure a tie with Leeds United in the 4th round. Now, it started as a tiny play that was performed under a railway arch in Wandsworth, but has since made its way to a stage in the West End. My Son's a Queer won awards after it was showcased at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, but now the one-man show is expected to be a sold-out success at its new home in Covent Garden. Helen Keenan reports.
First performed under a railway arch in Wandsworth. From humble beginnings to a West End hit.
I'm putting on a show in my living room, all about my childhood. I know what you're thinking. Rob, that sounds really self-indulgent, correct?
The living room recreated as a stage set, and the one-person play follows the story inspired by some old VHS tapes.
I found all of these ridiculous videos of when I used to make my dad be my stage manager and co-star in Beauty and the Beast and The Little Mermaid, and we used to put on these huge Disney parades. I mean, I turned my whole house into Disneyland, as you do.
They really got involved, didn't they? We see these home videos in the show.
Oh my goodness, they really mucked in. Whether they liked it or not, they had no choice whatsoever. Yeah, I forced them against their will. But we had a laugh, we had a really good time, I hope.
Welcome to the show. My Sons Are Queer is both written and performed by Rob, commended not only for how funny it is, but how supportive his family are, telling the story of raising a queer child.
Is that an important part of this show, really, that support?
Yeah, it's the whole reason why I did it, I think, because we so often see queer stories in such a negative light, especially now. There's a lot of negativity going on, and I just wanted to uplift and create a happy show.
Following a stint at the Edinburgh Fringe, the solo show returns to the West End tonight.
What is your highlight? What's your favourite part of the show?
When I got my mum and dad on stage at the Edinburgh Fringe to say we were transferring to the West End, it was just the most surreal, hilarious moment. And they were sat in the audience and they were going, "No, I'm not coming up." I was like, "You've got to come up, please, don't let me down." Once again, roping them in to perform with me, even as an adult. But me and Dad, we put on quite the show.
Beginning its run at the Ambassadors Theatre, performances will continue into March. Helen Keenan, ITV News.
OK, let's get a reminder now of our top story. And the Metropolitan Police Commissioner has pleaded with the people of London not to lose heart as they root out bad officers in the force. It comes after a serving police officer pleaded guilty to child sex offences. PC Hussein Shahab worked as a Safer Schools officer in Enfield. Right, Sally is here. And someone has struck gold in Hounslow.
Well, Duncan, bit late now. Tomorrow morning, get yourself down to Hounslow, British Heart Foundation. You'll never guess what someone found in, for want of a better word, a bag of jumble. This, a Cartier watch, no less. Now, thankfully, someone was on their A game when they were going through the bag of stuff and realised, oh, I think that might be a little bit more valuable than we anticipated. And they sent it up to their eBay depot and they put it on eBay and look how much it sold for, nearly £10,000. So good on them.
See, I couldn't tell the difference. I'd swear that was from a catalogue. But that's because I've never been in the same vicinity as a Cartier watch. That's why.
Oh, don't.
A Casio watch.
Well, I was going to say, does it measure your steps and your heartbeat and tell you when you've talked too much? No, it doesn't. I mean, this is what this one's starting to say. When I say the wrong thing, it starts buzzing.
Is it saying move on to the weather?
Yeah, get on with it, Sally. Pipe down, love. Anyway, so next time you go to the old charity shop, which I love going to the charity shop.
Love having a rummage.
Oh, I know, it's so nice. Always look for a little bit of china or nice glasses or something like that. Anyway, look really carefully because you never know. Right, let's take a look at the weather. Still a bit cold. Here we go.
ITV London weekday weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles. Car, charger and energy.
Hello again. Oh, I've used this photo more than once today because I just think little Hargreaves is so cute and he is loving the frost. Unlike probably many other people, you might be pleased to know that it's going to become a little bit patchier in nature, although Friday night might be pretty cold once again. So a bit damp this evening, but over the next few days we've got high pressure settling in, giving us quite a lot of dry conditions. There is a fair bit of cloud around, but brighter at times and a tiny bit less chilly by day. Nothing very dramatic there, I'm afraid, at the moment. So let's take a look at tonight. You can see we've got this front passing through, bringing some rain and drizzle. It's out of the way, though, fairly quickly. And behind it, some clear spells, also still some cloud. The odd shower, but mostly a dry night. Temperatures are still cold, still getting close to around freezing, particularly in the countryside. But as I said, if we get any frost, it's more likely to be patchy and not widespread. So we start tomorrow. Still chilly, maybe a shower passing through, but again, pretty dry setup. There is a fair bit of cloud around again, but it's likely to be a bit higher in the sky, not quite as low and murky, and hopefully a few breaks in it to allow, if not some brightness, then perhaps a touch of sunshine through. Our temperatures are up a degree, highs of 7 or 8, but they're just a little bit breezy, particularly out towards the east coast. If you've got plans for the evening, not a huge amount of change. Again, mostly dry, and I'm afraid it's going to be quite chilly once again. So the outlook, a settled picture for us. We've got this high pressure which is just keeping things pretty benign on the weather front. You can see Thursday and Friday, hopefully a bit of sunshine breaking through, maybe a bit more cloud into the weekend. The temperature's staying fairly suppressed, particularly at night time, just starting to come up a touch through the weekend. That's it. I'll see you later on. Cheerio.
ITV London Weekday Weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles.
Thank you, Sally. Just before we go, the story of one man who was in the right place at the right time. Jeff Etherington from Harlow started his year off by winning £500,000 in a Thunderball lucky dip. He'd only bought that winning ticket because he happened to change work shifts to make a hospital appointment. The 65-year-old had been buying tickets for 28 years. He plans to use the winnings to marry his fiancée Kim and to go on holiday. Congratulations to them both. Perfect ending to the programme. Lucrezia is here next with the ITV Evening News, and I'll be back tonight with our late updates. Until then, have a lovely evening. Bye-bye.